What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking Uncool with Alexa Bliss, featuring her very special guest, Lance Bass of NSYNC. Now, I can't say this is the latest episode. They've done a few since then. This actually came out 2 weeks ago. And as I've said before, yesterday in my review of the Broken Skull Sessions, I have yet to catch up on a lot of the stuff that has aired since 2 weeks ago. There's been the 24. I just watched Storytime, which was good. The season 4 premiere from a couple days ago. Won't be reviewing that, but it was very enjoyable for the 15 minutes that it went for. I watched the day of yesterday. That's going to be a review on Sunday, I think. So I'm slowly but surely catching up on everything that's aired. I have yet to watch the 24. That review, I'm probably going to watch it today and then review it for tomorrow. So again, I know it's all delayed and I apologize, but I was sick 2 weeks ago, then I was away, so kind of made everything way more hectic than it usually is. So yeah, Lance is from NSYNC. He was on the show because I guess he was Alexa Bliss's childhood crush, and she talks about that here. She shares this story about how she went to an NSYNC concert when she was a kid. She was like the biggest NSYNC fan. She went to a concert, her mom bought her tickets. She was probably front row or something, and she stood up or whatever, and she screamed, "I love you, Lance," and he didn't respond, didn't even acknowledge her, and that has bothered her all these years, which I thought was funny. But he said that his most awkward moments were the early NSYNC days when they first started getting together, and how, he mentioned at the concerts, after she tells that story about how, she was at the concert, she yelled to him, and he just ignored her. He mentioned how the concerts were always loud, and, I thought he was joking, but, he said legit, in all seriousness, the concerts were so loud because there were so many screaming girls and kids and whatever, and teenagers, that he literally lost hearing in his right ear, in his right ear. Not all of it, half of his hearing is gone in his right ear. That's insane to me. I would love to know how many, artists, singers, whatever, have that happen to them. But specifically NSYNC, who had just packed electric concerts back in the day. He does recall one concert. This was one of his awkward moments, where he had an awkward concert. He had an awkward moment in Germany where they had a concert, and he was supposed to make this grand entrance wearing this goofy-ass, bright orange costume or something, and he came out during the wrong band, which is pretty awkward. But Lance says it was always awkward. He said that Joey and Chris, the members of NSYNC, had their moments of uncoolness as well. He said that NSYNC was able to make Chris cool by the end too, which was kind of funny. JC could be uncool at times. He does say, and this is when it really gets good, when it kind of gets I like the uncool stories. Some of these are funny depending on the guest. The Miz had one really good one. Lance's, I was kind of worried about the show when he started telling his stories. I'm like, it's awkward, but it's not uncool, you know what I mean? But this is when it really got good. So he said, coming up in NSYNC, which how old he would have been, I don't know, maybe late teenager, early 20s, whatever. He had trouble dating, and his excuse was, he was scared to date, he didn't want to date, whatever. But he would always tell his NSYNC mates that, I'm just too busy. I can't date right now, I'm too busy. Even though everyone else in NSYNC had a girlfriend or whatever, he just said he was too busy. So he said he met a few people during his NSYNC days, and he eventually embraced being gay. But before that, he actually dated Danielle Fishel, which, unless I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's Topanga from Boy Meets World, which is amazing. I think she's married with maybe a kid or two now. I don't remember. I know she's married now. But isn't that Danielle Fishel? I'm pretty sure that's Topanga from Boy Meets World, which, if so, that's amazing. But interestingly enough, he said as much as he loved her, and he truly did love her, it was during that relationship that he figured out that he was gay. And it was during that relationship, or rather his subsequent relationship, after they kind of broke it off and they're still on good terms and whatever, that he found real love during his first real relationship with another guy. And he said that was when he kind of discovered what love was supposed to be, which was a cool story. So he told the story about how he met his husband, Michael. It was in Palm Springs at a birthday party, he said. Neither of them really wanted to be there, just that type of thing. When he first saw Michael, he said that he thought he was straight. But then after Michael Facebook poked him on the way home from the party, which is hilarious because I remember the Facebook pokes. I don't know if you could still do Facebook pokes. I haven't been poked, quote unquote, in 5 or 6 years, but that was a big thing 10, 11 years ago. So this was probably 2010, 2011, around that time. He didn't think that Michael liked him back. And he thought that he would be less attracted to him if he just spent all this time with him and kind of solidified his spot as being Michael's best friend. Obviously, that didn't really work. Michael eventually, was into him as well. He was probably into him the whole time. So they had the first same-sex wedding special to ever air on TV, which is really cool. Which I guess would have been 2014 because Alexa Bliss remembered watching it. But yeah, so he said that he declined having it on TV initially because, who wants to have their wedding on TV? It's bad luck. But he eventually embraced it, ended up loving it, and he has the greatest wedding video ever because it's all on TV. And he said, this was interesting, he said that at the time they got engaged, which would have been, 2011, 2012, 2013, that same-sex marriage wasn't even legal yet. And I don't know if that was depending on the state they were in, or I'm not up to date on all that type of stuff. But I thought that was really interesting, so great for them. But he said that it made him really happy to kind of get that out there and show gay kids coming up and stuff like that that are growing up that either know they're gay or may not know they're gay, to kind of tell them, hey, it's okay, you'll find someone for yourself, blah, blah, blah. And, I did, so maybe you can too. So I thought that was cool. Anyway, so he said that Michael, his husband, wasn't previously an NSYNC fan, and I guess he knew some people that were Backstreet Boys fans. If I had to choose, personally, I'm more of a Backstreet Boys person, although NSYNC is great too. But that was the way that it was growing up in the late 90s. I mean, I was born in 95, so I didn't really go through that a lot, really at all, actually, because I was so young. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, you were either NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. You couldn't be both. It was a big war at the time, and he acknowledged how you can be, you can enjoy everyone nowadays. There really is no war, but back then you were either NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. It's like you were either WWF or WCW. That was just the mindset of the world, I guess, in the late 90s, early 2000s, which is hilarious. This is another really interesting story. So he ended up getting really into NASA. Space travel, being an astronaut. He grew up wanting initially to be an astronaut, obviously before that kind of got sidetracked due to the whole NSYNC thing blowing up. But he didn't know how to do it. So what he ended up doing was taking classes in Russia to train to be an astronaut for 6 months while he was in NSYNC. I guess there was an AOL chat or something like that at the time, which is, how old that story is when he says AOL chat, so this must have taken place in the early 2000s. And I don't know why NASA would have done this, but they were like, who would you like to see go to the moon? Who would you like to see do space travel? And they all said Lance Bass, or not just anyone, but a celebrity specifically. And a lot of people selected Lance because they knew he wanted to be an astronaut. So he got selected for it, went to go to Russia to train for 6 months. He called it a very intense program, which I could only imagine. And he said he didn't know how he did it. He just went in there and just fucking did it. He didn't really know how he got through the program. It was that intense, but he did it. So nonetheless, he said all of his experiments had to go away. The mission got canceled the week before. I forgot for what reason, but he never ended up doing it, which sucks, but he was going to, and it was all ready to go a week before it was supposed to happen, and I guess he hasn't had that opportunity since. So I wish we could have gotten more details on that because I thought that was interesting as to why he never ended up going after that. Maybe it was a medical thing. I don't know exactly. So he thought when he first got that call to be involved with NASA, whatever, he said that he thought he was getting punked. It took him a full month to be convinced that this was actually NASA and that it wasn't a joke, which is hilarious. But anyway, to close it out, he said that he believes he's a lot cooler now than he was when he was a kid, just by being himself currently. He does plan on having kids at some point. He says to Alexa Bliss that he would tell his younger self to just be more confident. And he talks about his new podcast. He has a wine mixture. And the podcast has been super helpful during the pandemic. He said to kind of, kill time, be productive, and it's been a lot of fun for him. And he also reads off, I forgot exactly what this is called, but he asks Alexa what her birthday is, and he reads off what she is, intuitive and empathetic, stuff like that, based off what her, birthday is. August 9th, I think she said, and what dates of the year of people's birthdays that she would be compatible with. So I thought that was interesting. But, so I thought this was a really good episode. Again, I was a little worried early on if they were just going to tell, NSYNC stories, which is what a lot of people would probably listen for because he's from NSYNC. But I liked the personal stuff too, how he realized he was gay, and the marriage stuff, and the NASA stuff was especially fascinating. So it's not just about being uncool. Like, I like the uncool concept, and it was really funny with The Miz. But with Lance, I think it was more important to kind of get to know who this guy is behind the in-sync stuff, and I thought they did a great job of that in the second half of the podcast. So really good stuff here. The clock's in at around 25 minutes. And of course, I'm reviewing these because they are on the WWE Network. There's 3 ways you can check out the podcast. On Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast, you can listen to it. I would prefer to watch it if there's a video component. So you can either watch it on the WWE YouTube channel or on the WWE Network. There's a lot of different ways to catch this podcast. Since this one aired 2 weeks ago, they had another one, they have another one coming up this week. Maybe with the Bella Twins, I forget. They have another one coming up this week, though, on Tuesday. That's usually when they air. And they had another one last week with James Iglehart, who I had no idea who this guy was before I listened to the show, and I fucking loved it. I guess he was Genie in Aladdin on Broadway, and he was in Hamilton at one point, the original Hamilton. He's amazing. The guy's great. He's a big WWE fan. They talk a lot about wrestling, his own life, being in show choir, stuff like that. The guy was awesome. It was probably even better than the Miz episode, so I'm looking forward to reviewing that here probably Wednesday on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. Nonetheless, guys, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham Giason Matthews. Be sure to check out all the other Uncool with Alexa Bliss podcast reviews here in the description box on this very video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. All that stuff is greatly appreciated. Hit that little bell button as well to be notified every time a new video goes up. And be sure to stay tuned for later today for the latest installment of the MCU Rewatch Reviews with myself, Chris Mueller, and the returning Nick Torres to talk Avengers Endgame, which is going to be a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for that going up later today. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham Giason Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.